All right, guys, let's talk about it because I've been seeing it quite a lot, and I've been trying to be honest with you, I've been putting myself off from talking about this, but it keeps. I see it everywhere, so I'm thinking, okay, no, let me just do a video on it, throwing my $2 on it. Traversal ENT first and foremost, in case you didn't know, make sure you subscribe to the channel, show support. We're trying to grow, trying to hit that 100 subscriber. We're on the 93 mark at the moment. Fans, guys, if you're liking this, support the channel. Let's get to the 100. That'd be a great achievement for this month, guys. All right, so hit the like and subscribe if you can. Absolutely. Now, let's talk about it. So Chris Eubank Jr. has got his new promoter, right? Calais Sauerland, right? Calais Sauerland is all about putting Eubank in them big fights. Calais Sauerland doesn't want to use Eubank and waste him like what's his name did, Al Heyman. Now, I did see an article that said that did Al Heyman waste Chris Eubank? And I definitely think he did. I think Al did not utilize him well at all. And sometimes I think to myself, maybe Al's stable is just too big for him to fully manage every fighter very, very well. Because I'll be honest with you, some fighters Eddie Hearn will manage a lot better than Al Heyman. That's not every fighter across the board, but that's some fighters. Some fighters, if they were with Eddie, they would have had more fights. They would have had probably better fights and possibly higher purses. Some PBC fighters, if they were with Hearn, would have been in that situation. Of course, Al Heyman does look after his fighters quite well. The majority of them do not complain. They do not moan, guys. That gives testament to Al Heyman's to the fine job he does on his side over there. But again, when it comes to Chris Eubank Jr., that is one person that Al Heyman absolutely wasted, completely wasted. I personally think, well, I'm not going to give names of all the fighters that Al did, that did not fare well under Al Heyman's banner, but I'm not going to go there. But Chris Eubank Jr. is definitely one of them. Moving on, as I said, Calais Sauerland wants to get Chris in with Triple G, right? He wants to get Chris Eubank in with Triple G. Calais feels that Triple G's on his way out, and it takes for Chris Eubank to get him out. And he strongly believes that Chris Eubank Jr. can do it. So let me give you my little 2 cents on the matter, guys. Here's what I think about that fight. I believe this, and I've been saying this for a long time, right? Obviously, you don't know. I've only had my channel for about a month, but I felt this way a long time. Two outcomes will happen in that fight. If Chris Eubank Jr. gets in with Triple G, and guys, believe it or not, potentially trying to make that fight in the United Kingdom. I don't know how much revenue they're going to look to make in that fight. God knows. But Calais is obviously going to be paying people correctly, especially Triple G. He will get paid correctly. Even if Chris Eubank Jr. has got to take a little cut, it might be worth it for him because what he's going to get out of beating Triple G is 100-fold, right? So, what is my early prediction for the fight? I'm going to give you guys my early prediction for the fight. And because it's an early one, it has two outcomes. Number one, it could either go like this. It could turn out that Chris Eubank Jr., though he's been under Roy Jones Jr.'s tutelage for the past 12 months or more, he would not have learnt enough, and therefore Triple G will comfortably box him to a 12th round victory. Right? That's one possible outcome that half my brain thinks is likely. That Eubank just hasn't learned enough under Roy Jones or hasn't been able to put it into practice enough. Therefore, when he got into the fight, he reverted to what he always does. But guess what? Triple G decided, I'll box this guy because I know what his strengths are and I don't want to play into them. Let me box him, keep him at a distance, jab the life out of him, and he should coast himself into a beautiful 12 points decision, right? But the majority of me does not agree with this thinking. And if I was to put a bet today, this is the bet I'd put in, guys. Listen up. I believe that Chris Eubank Jr. will TKO Gennady Golovkin. Guys, I've thought that for the longest time because I've analyzed both fighters and I've seen both their styles. You don't have to agree with me, but I know what I'm talking about. And should the fight get made, you best believe that's the bet I'm putting down if I was to be a betting man. But Chris Eubank Jr.'s style, or shall I say, Gennady Golovkin's style is tailor-made for Chris Eubank Jr. Tailor-made. And remember what I told you guys once upon a time, if you fight Chris Eubank Jr. head-on, instead of boxing him and running circles around him, if you decide to fight him head-on, he will beat you up. He will TKO you. As Avni Yildirim, the guy who Canelo wants to fight next, found out about Eubank when he got beaten up and he got knocked out clean cold by Chris Eubank Jr., guys. Avni lost that fight in front of his dad because he took the wrong tactics, thinking he could out-macho Chris, which is a bad idea. Chris Eubank is gifted when it comes to his engine. He's gifted when it comes to his work rate. He throws punches like a machine that's been programmed to throw a million punches around. If you ever play Street Fighter, you remember the guy called E Honda? I'm talking about the ancient old Street Fighters, not the new stuff, right? I don't really watch that. But the old Street Fighter 2s and whatever you call them. E Honda had the 1,000-hand hit. That is Chris Eubank Jr. He throws punches like no other. No one comes close to the amount of punches thrown like Chris does. Now, saying that, Chris only is that effective if you come forward to him, because he's not very good at cutting the ring off. He follows fighters. He stalks fight, which is not smart. If you box him, you comfortably win. Let's hope Roy Jones's tutelage has taught Chris something about the boxing and he can implement that in his game plan. Very exciting fighter. I will absolutely watch the fight if it's made. Saleh, if you can make that fight, you are a legend, mate. You hear me? You are a legend if you can make that fight. I believe it will be fight of the year, and because they're having it in Jan, I don't see any fights happening after that fight that will be better than that fight. All right, so it's gonna be a fight of the year candidate if it's made, and it's gonna be, if Golovkin fights coming forward, it's gonna be a bad beating he'll take. Now, make no mistake, Chris Eubank will get touched in this fight. He's gonna feel fire in this fight, but Golovkin will be TKO'd. I strongly believe that, guys. I really do. I stand with Saleh on that one. I think Eubank will clean him out. And that will catapult Eubank into something really, really big here, which is great because I've got access to Eubank in terms of getting hold of him to do an interview. And what better way to show my face on my channel with an interview Chris Eubank Jr. Wouldn't that be fantastic, guys? So I really hope they can make that fight. And I really hope that fight is in London, because if it is, you can guarantee that I'm going to be there. And you can guarantee I'm going to interview Chris Eubank too. Traversal ENT, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, guys. Signing out.